welcome back. This is, I think, this is the third one. We started off with holistic health, kind of a general class. Next one was on hand strength and flexibility of the hands for arthritis and massage of the acupressure meridians. Last month we did headaches and pressure points on the face and neck, mostly on the face, and then to some extent other types of headaches with herbs and things like that. So now we're talking about, what are we doing?
Number 4.
Balance.
Yes.
The fourth one, so not the third one, the fourth one. And then next month we're going to do bone strength and how to hopefully combat osteopenia and osteoporosis. And that kind of falls right in with falling, falls right in with grip strength. What's that get us to? November. I think if we do one in December, maybe on how to breathe deeply, not just, okay, here's a breathing exercise, the whole process. Most of the things that I've been talking about, it's not just like that topic. We're going to talk about balance. It's not just, this type of balance. It's going to be, the whole thing, holistic health. It's all about everything together. So I kind of like this format for me because I think it engages us a little bit more. If we put up a PowerPoint, you could very easily do that. Then you got turned on the lights and then people get comfortable and next thing you know, you're kind of dozing off. And it's like, I don't want people falling asleep during my classes. So hopefully this keeps everybody more engaged if I got to kind of point stuff out and flip the pages a little bit. So now that you've all had, a few minutes to look at this, see, she's already starting to doze off. Exactly what I'm talking about. We got our spiritual awareness, we got our mental, mind, and the physical and health. Physical aspect being health and fitness. So if all those things are in balance, then we're great. And it's usually not until something goes out of whack that you realize, maybe it's one of the other things that's affecting you. I like to look at this I don't like to look at it this way. I have to look at it sometimes like we're a vehicle, we're a car. And that's how you kind of get the mind, the body, and the spirit. Everybody likes to have a car that runs well. And it's usually not until something goes wrong that you take it in. It's like, oh, gotta get the car fixed. It's red light came on or whatever on the dashboard. Or you find out your tires are out of alignment, so you gotta get new tires. So what do you wait or do you do this stuff proactively? So if you're looking at the car model, you driving it, that's the mind. You got to know where you're going. What's the purpose of being in the car? Car is the vehicle, the physical, being, if you will. And then the spiritual part is awareness. It's like, how do you drive? Are you an aggressive driver? Offensive? Defensive? Do you tailgate? Are you the guy on the highway that's going in and out? That's kind of like the spirit of the awareness. It's like, I know how I should be driving, but this is how I'm driving. And if we can equate that into, our spiritual awareness of being around people, it's like, how do you treat people in your surroundings? Are you aware of that? When you're in a store, are you bumping into people and you don't even realize it? When we're doing our class, is there enough space that you know what's going on around you? So as we go through these, I got about, there's 14 or so of these. If you have a question, please stop me. If you want to interject and, expound upon something, we can do that. It's not a lecture, it's a discussion. So hopefully we go both ways. So let's keep going. Hopefully my thing doesn't fall over on me while we're doing this. Okay, so we got the mind. And all of these things are going to come back to our physical balance by the time we get further into this. It is all going to come down to how well you can stand on one leg or prevent yourself from falling. So our mind and the mental aspect of our balance is knowledge, intelligence, and our cognitive processes. Oftentimes when people start getting into discussion of how smart am I or how smart are you, and that they look at knowledge as being the main thing. It's like all these books in the room here. It's like I got all this knowledge in my head. I can memorize all this stuff. But if you can't do something with it and apply it, what's the good of having all that knowledge? I can show you folks all these different exercises we do for physical balance. But again, if you don't understand it and apply it towards your everyday, it's not going to really help you. You're still going to end up falling or having an issue with your physical balance. Knowledge is what you know, kind of like the books in your head. Intelligence is what you can do with it and how you adapt it to your life. And then the cognitive processes are how you do that. Some people learn better by seeing, hence the graphics. I'm very graphical with my presentations. Some people are more by audio and what they hear. Hopefully when we do exercises, physical activity, you also have the third element of physical awareness of where your body positioning is. So if you can figure that out, the sooner you figure out how you learn best, you can gain the most from what you're learning. Some teachers will be in a room and all they do is talk, and they miss half the people, and they're like, I didn't learn anything. And other people are just too graphical. You got to have a balance with it. So at the bottom here, I say, how deep is your root? Root, I guess that shows what part of the country I'm from, right? How deep is your root? This is the root, your feet, your ability to be grounded. And we can look at that, again, from a physical aspect or from a mental aspect. How grounded are you in what your knowledge is? How grounded are you in your beliefs? So that's going to keep coming up on the next couple pages. How deep is your root? And it'll be more relative when we do start doing some of the physical balance exercises. I forgot, where are you from? Chicago. But it's 30 years ago. You coming in? Come on and join us. Root beer. Root beer. You know, I think I've been down here long enough now, 30 years, that I kind of misplace some of my accents. So we're a couple minutes into it. So we're at the beginning here where we're talking about, you know, we want to talk about physical balance and how to be stronger in your stabilizing of your body, right? But we're also going to hit upon the mental aspects of it a little bit because it's all tied in together. Are you joining us too? Come on in. I don't want to back up as far as once I turn the page, we kind of keep going forward, but I can still elaborate on this one a little bit. So I do like this closer, you know, setup too, because again, it's us talking and not me standing in front up on a stage talking with you folks. So I bring that up again, because if you have a comment, if it's somewhat on topic, you know, let's bring it up. So again, knowledge is what you know. The book's inside your head. Intelligence is how you can apply that. And then cognitive processes of how you learn things, how you learn either by sight, feel, tactile, how you feel. And all of these things are my interpretation of it. So, you know, you might go on to Google and type something in, it's going to be, oh, that's a little different definition. So this is how I want to explain it. How deep is your root? I said this is going to keep coming up on some of the next couple pages here. It has to do with not just your physical stability, but how rooted you are in your, you know, your beliefs, your knowledge, your basically how you live your life. You know, where is your root? Yes. Yes, definitely.
And if we don't ask that question, we can totally miss the point.
Definitely. So something add onto that visual thing. If you were colorblind, and if you were looking at this as all the same, you know, here I took the time to like pick different colors. You know, look at all these gears, different colors inside someone's head. If it's all flat, again, that kind of gives you more of a superficial representation maybe of what the topic is that we're talking about. So I add a little color to it. Hopefully that gives a little spark. Little silly graphics sometimes make a difference. They stick out with you. So we're ready to turn the page, folks. Like I said, I hope I don't tip this thing over, but this is the way I got this set up here. So whenever I bring up the topic of spiritual, I always put awareness with that, because some people look at spiritual as religious. I choose to look at it as more of an awareness of your consciousness. And there's different categories that fall under that. And like I said, all this stuff is going to tie back into your physical, you know, being able to make it across the room without tripping. It all has to do with your mind, your awareness, your body's part of that, right? So here we got beliefs, morals and values, consciousness and awareness of what's going on. You just said connections. Connections can be connection to something bigger than us, you know, spiritual level, religious level, or it could be the connections in your life. Everybody's in this room right now. It's like you're here for a reason. You've been here about 4 times now, right? This your 4th one? 3rd one. Some of you have been here 4 times. Some of you are one time. Yeah, but that's part of our spiritual awareness. It's connecting to a group of people for a network that have similar goals. If I had my way, I would be doing these classes every day. I have enough material. I enjoy talking and engaging with people to do this. I don't think I have a shortage of information. So we're going to go till the end of the year. Like a little recap, we've talked about just holistic health in general. The next one was on wrist strength and grip strength. We talked about headaches. Today we're talking about balance. Next month it's going to be bone strength and how to prevent osteopenia, osteoporosis. Again, how not to fall. December, breathing. How to breathe better, how to affect your nervous system with breathing. At the end of this year, we're going to take a break and then come into next year, you know, beginning part of the year, we'll evaluate and see if, you know, you folks want to keep doing this. breathing in December. So you can take a sigh of relief before the end of the year. So again, I bring this back down to this phrase down here, how deep is your root? Most people, there's going to be a page here where it explains it a little bit more why I chose the term root. Root, you know what I'm speaking about. So we had, what happened? Sure. Okay, good question. We will elaborate on that in December for a whole hour, but I talk about it in almost every class because how you regulate your breathing regulates your nervous system, which regulates your organs and how they function and how you perform either in a stress level or in a relaxed setting. So you can find through studies and research papers whichever outcome you want to answer that question. I've found things on both sides of the fence. From what I've practiced for probably 40 years now and what I have researched and learned, the more you breathe through your nose, the better it is for your general overall health. All through your nose is filtered air. It warms the air coming into your lungs. The way the breathing mechanism works, it helps you to breathe deeper. Deeper is almost always better. And then one of the things that's come up in I think the last 20 years or so, there's this nitric oxide, which is a what do they call it? A messenger molecule that when you breathe through your nose, the membrane and the cells in your nose produce this messenger molecule that sends a message to your heart to open up the arteries so more blood can flow through. So this is a very good thing. More circulation under less stress. Okay, when we're stressed and you got to do something, a fire engine's coming, something's on fire and you're stressed, you're going to breathe deep and that circulation is going to increase because you got to do whatever it takes. But that's stress. And then there's other hormones that are released with stress. So back to the original point, try to breathe as much as you can through your nose unless you know of some reason to do otherwise. There's some different yoga practices, martial arts practices where you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And it has to do with generating a quick amount of energy for the short term, like a martial arts technique. You'd breathe in and then out through your mouth very rapidly, and it's somewhat shallow for what we're talking about. So in through your nose, out through your nose. You got more.
I do.
What do you
If
got?
I have bad health and I get sick, my blood pressure goes up. I take no prescription meds. So when I get up there and they want to take my blood pressure, I say, give me a minute or two, and I
We do it at every one of my Tai Chi classes. I got plugged my class Thursdays, 11:30 to 12:30. First 5 minutes is managed regulated breathing. And then throughout the whole class with the other exercises, we're focused on breathing throughout the whole time through. So breathing, without it, what do we got? Okay, we take advantage of it. It seems like it's not a big deal. So physical health was that third aspect. We had the spiritual awareness, self-awareness. Hey there, come on in. We had mental aspects. So the third part of that is the physical health. And we got health in different categories. Homeostasis, that's how your body operates on a regular basis, kind of not stressed, not too relaxed. It's always homeostasis, returning to normal. Energy levels, growth of the body, sleep hygiene, that's become a little more aware, a little more popular in the last couple of years of people being aware how they sleep. It's not just that you get 8 hours of sleep, it's how sound do you sleep, and that affects your nervous system, affects your day. You sleep bad one night, that day might not feel as good. That night, the second night, you find you're not sleeping as well again. It's just kind of like a vicious circle that keeps going. So that's very important. Metabolism is how well your body utilizes the energy that you take in for food and water. Immune response and development. So just because you're healthy doesn't necessarily mean that you're fit. And fitness is some of the aspects, again, that we cover when we do physical movements. Stamina, strength, control, flexibility, coordination, power, endurance, balance, speed. So all of these things, while they do complement each other, they can be exclusive of each other also. Fitness, oftentimes you'll see younger people are very fit and they can do all these different things. They can stand on one leg, do, amazing things. But you look at their health and, maybe they're sick all the time. Their immune system's terrible, or their sleep is terrible. So again, this all probably makes sense to some of you folks. I don't think this is any new things, but I just want to get everybody kind of on the same page so we're all, thinking about the same topic of how this all affects our physical balance, also with our mental and our spiritual balance. So again, how deep is your root? With the physical health, that's even more apparent, I think. If you're, like you're saying, you're walking in the room and there's stuff on the floor and you're just kind of oblivious to it, you're really not having a plan of what's gonna possibly happen. So with Tai Chi and with other physical exercise, yoga definitely does it, there's an awareness of where your center of gravity is at. And without that, you have to be mobile. It's one thing to walk in a room and see hazards. There's a cord, there's a throw rug that I might trip on. That's not being mobile. That's the situation that's in that room. As soon as I walk into another room, there's another set of circumstances that I need to deal with. So if I can't be mobile in my health, in my ability to balance, it's not going to help me, in the bigger picture. You got to be able to take your health with you, right? So again, how deep is your root? How deep?
I didn't leave it on the floor.
No. So now we're starting to get into what's affecting balance. And again, this could be from the mental, the spiritual, or the physical aspect. All the different causes of imbalances in balance could be genetic, something you inherited from your parents. Pharmaceuticals. I'm pretty sure there's some people in the room might be on one medicine, I don't know, maybe two, maybe more, and those can affect your balance. A lot of the inner ear issues come from medication causing you to be dizzy. Injuries, smack to the head, car accident that jarred your nervous system and your bone structure can cause you to have balance issues. Your diet, you're eating certain foods, some might give you more of a tendency to be drowsy or loopy or whatever the case may be. A lot of it has to do with drugs, and pharmaceuticals, looking at that as pharmaceuticals, maybe the ones that people are taking recreationally too, that can affect your balance. We got environmental. If you're in certain areas where there's more possibility to injury, you work on ladders, scaffolds, you're a carpenter, painter, some of those types of things. Lifestyle choices, going back to the recreational alcohol and marijuana and stuff like that. So all these different things, health issues just in general, you get sick from this thing or that thing. All of those things can affect your outlook on your awareness, your mental capacity to be able to process things, and your physical health. So all of these have many different subcategories that we can go further with. Again, just to kind of keep everybody on the same page with what we're discussing, if you're starting to see some of these things and maybe you personally do have a problem with balance and you're not sure why, and then you can kind of look at this and go, oh yeah, my parents might have had some issues. Or, I did get into a car accident a couple of years ago that's starting to come back and haunt me. Oftentimes with injuries, when you're young, your body will heal up to a point, but the body still remembers. So then years go by, and now your body's getting tighter, stiffer, you're aging, and then that injury from earlier starts to come back and remind you that it happened. So let's keep moving along here. The tree. So hopefully these are legible, You're all sitting close enough you can see these. So there's a relationship between a tree and the human body from a philosophical point of view. You have your arms and hands, which are basically the branches. You have the waist, the trunk, the core, and you have the feet, the root of how stable you are. Our arm, I say this with the Tai Chi class oftentimes, you always got to make sure your feet are in the right spot so you can adjust your center of gravity where your weight is at. Your arms and hands are often inconsequential. They really don't matter. Your hand can be doing something here or there, and it's not going to affect your stability. You're not going to fall because your hand's in a different position. So as the tree goes and ages throughout every season, you go from leaves to, the leaves dwindle, they fall off, and then you're just left with branches. And then they come again. And then a breeze comes or a storm comes. The branches and leaves are always going to just do whatever they do. So if you want to be up here, you do whatever you do. If you want to have a little more strength, you build up your core. because that affects the whole body. If you want to have the most strength, it starts with the feet. You have to have healthy feet. If your feet aren't healthy, it means you can't walk and can't get around. I'm sure most of you have stubbed your toe. At some point in time, you get up in the middle of the night, smack into something with your toe, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much that hurts. And then if you hit yourself in the dark, or you hurt your toe in the dark or whatever, there's a good chance you might fall and stumble into something else too. So it all comes back to that root, the root of your feet. So Jeannie likes this one. We've talked about this a bit before. It's probably better if I stand over here. So there's this Chinese term, I don't know if it's just all Chinese, but Taoism, you know, that whole balance of yin and yang philosophy that goes back about 500 BC. Death begins in the big toe. And the way that phrase makes some sense is if you, like I was just saying, you stub your toe, you injure your foot, you're not going to be as mobile. You have lack of mobility in your feet, it affects your whole body. I have an uncle who just passed away, my wife's uncle. He had fallen and he didn't leave the hospital because after he fell, he broke his hip. He was in the hospital, he did not recuperate well. And then I think he ended up getting, we call it pneumonia. So it's a spiral, which is another topic that we'll talk about in a few more of these. So lack of mobility coming from your feet, coming specifically from injuring some part of your foot, can definitely affect your overall health. Less confidence. You know, if you're not getting up, if you're not as comfortable getting around and moving, you're not as confident to do things that you might have done previously. Oftentimes people stop walking upstairs or the curb in a parking lot. You know, people won't do that because they're afraid of tripping and falling. So then they're more likely to not have as much activity or not enjoy things they might have enjoyed previously. The feet also have a connection to traditional Chinese medicine. Specifically with the big toe, it's your spleen and your liver, the meridians that run along the side of the big toe. And that's where Biff comes in. I just gotta have Biff. Best friend forever, right? And all these energy meridians, they go all the way down to the feet, fingertips, top of the head. And whether you choose to, believe or understand how that works, either way, I think most of you would agree. You stub your toes, it hurts. There's nerve endings in your toes. There's meridians that affect other parts of your body. It's like reflexology. Yes?
One point I wanted to make is if you are someone who gets up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and we all probably do, keep some shoes there that you can slip into, and that way when you hit your big toe, it's not going to hurt.
Slip on a pair of slippers or something, right? Yeah.
Slippers are kind of wimpy, you might get hurt, but even if it doesn't have something over the top, if your bottom is right here is covered and you hit something, you're not probably going to stub your toe quite as bad.
Check it before you get to bed.
You want to take them off before you get back.
Check it off before you go to bed.
You know what else I've noticed over the last couple decades? All the little devices we have give you these little lights, little LED or LCD lights. So before, the house would be totally pitch black if I woke up in the middle of the night. Now, the microwave's got a light on it, the refrigerator's got a little light on it, some of the outlets have little lights on them, the phones. Yeah.
When I get in bed, I turn it on.
So while we might despise technology, there are some things that are actually good. We have like a little map throughout the house now where it's not just pitch black if you get up in the middle of the night. So you have to turn on the... Yeah.
No, but I have my toothbrush, my electric toothbrush, which puts on a little bit of light.
There's ways that you can do, there's ones you plug in the wall too. They come in a set at Home Depot, 3 or 4 of them, and just put them in the wall.
I like that. In the ALF, in the assisted living facilities, in the new ones now, they have lights, so when you get up and you go into the bathroom, it's
Yeah.
how do you motion to wee?
So this is a little bit off topic, but we're still talking about health in general, right? So the lighting, sometimes those motion sensitive ones turn on really bright. And you're used to, you're kind of in the dark, you're asleep, you're waking up to go use the restroom, whatever. Your eyes haven't adjusted yet to the light. So with some people, that bright light can trigger a headache or a migraine. So now you go from pretty dark to bright, and it's like, oh my gosh. And another aspect of that too is when you go from it being tranquil and quiet when you're sleeping to getting up, your nervous system is at that rest state. So now you flick on lights, you flush the toilet, you make all these loud noises. Aside from maybe waking up somebody else, you're stimulating yourself. So
My cat, I have a Siamese that comes in, he's got the best hearing. He'll come from the living room as soon as he leaves with my feet and my shoes.
but now it might be harder for you to get back to sleep. So you gotta be careful how much stimulation, how much light you turn on to avoid falling. You know, neither one's a good option, right? You don't want to fall, but you don't want to give yourself this, bright thing that's going to either give you a headache or wake you up too much.
I didn't like walking because you're dark and then all of a sudden they come on so I keep running the kitchen all night.
Yeah.
And that way, and then I walk and then the Bush and sisters, but I need to walk towards light.
We need to walk to I walk into my dressing area from my bedroom, and my arm automatically goes up to sleep, and I turn on my light in my closet, and I open my closet. So it's not
Everybody gets into their routine of what they find works for them. And that, again, that's the mental awareness that we're talking about, the earlier parts. Not just, oh my gosh, I can't balance, I feel unstable. It's like, well, what's going on up here? What are you thinking about that's happening during those times when you're feeling less stable? So this all comes down to your feet. You go to any chiropractor, chiropractor's going to tell you it has a lot to do with your feet. Chiropractor. They're going to tell you that the structure starts in your feet. And you'll get a spinal adjustment, and sometimes they'll tell you about your feet, and they'll prescribe, what do they call them, orthotics, because your feet are out of whack. And some of you can take your shoes off and look at the sole, and from one foot to the other, one might have more wear on it. And that's a sign that your spine's out of whack and your feet are adjusting.
I still have a DO who's my GP who does osteomanipulative therapy for me to keep me walking.
All different facets of the same thing.
She's the only one I know in town, and I have to go to Lake Mary to do it.
So we're going to get back into the feet and how that affects our posture as we keep going a little further into this here. So the falling, I think you brought it up already about falling and the injury. I brought up about my wife's uncle who passed away. There's this thing called the fracture cascade. Some of you have heard of this. So the possibility of you falling is whatever. Say 50%. You have a 50% chance of falling because of your age and your physical ability or whatever those points were that I talked about earlier. So now you fall. The chance of you falling again and breaking something is about two times more likely once you survive the first fall. And that could be breaking your wrist or your elbow, whatever, right? If you fall and injure your hip, that goes to about 4 times as likely that you're going to fall again and have other serious issues. So just one break, I broke my finger. That's probably not what we're talking about. But you fall and you break your wrist. Okay, you broke your fall, so you didn't hurt your hip. But now, chances of you falling again, it's more likely to happen. So that is a spiral. And once people end up specifically with a hip injury or the vertebrae fracturing, very hard to recuperate from it and get out of the hospital to get back to doing things that will keep you active and keep you from getting sick and ill. So you're again bringing it all the way back to my first page where I said your mental awareness and the knowledge of your body are things that come into play with your balance. It's not like you're just a teenager running through the field and you fell and you get back up again and you just keep doing what you were doing. And it's like, I can do this forever. As we get older, this is something everybody needs to be more aware of, if you want. Otherwise, this bottom line here, I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer, but that is kind of what happens once you start that cascade. So some of you might have fallen and injured yourself already. I don't want to, things are terrible. You got to be aware of what your situation is, okay? Don't want anybody to be going too far down the rabbit hole on the negative side, right? So look at this. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Come on, stay up there. This is what happens when you make your own stuff, right? Okay, So vestibular, that's the stuff in your ear. Some of you know about this already. If you've had vertigo issues, my wife's had Meniere's disease in the past. You get hit in the head, sports injuries, car accidents. This vestibular is this tongue twister. The inner ear has this GPS. We all have a GPS system. And here we have it in our cars and our phones. It's like, oh, this is such cool new stuff. It's been in our body, in our inner ear, for as long as humanity's been around. It's the device that has 3 different canals. They're called the semicircular canals, and it's what keeps your head level. Even though I'm looking over at the clock, I can move my head in different directions and my eyes stay fixated on it. That's the first one here, a vestibular ocular reflex. So whatever position your body is in, even if you're falling or turning, your eyes stay fixated, or they try to, on whatever object. This is vestibular spinal reflex. That has to do with this. Oh, I tripped. I tripped on that thread like I was talking about in my other class. There was a piece of string on the floor. I said, I gotta move it or I'll trip. When we adjust from what our feet feel and the spine, you got the brain, the spine, and you have receptors in your ankles and feet that are constantly trying to keep mostly your chin above your tailbone. That's why we don't stand like this most of the time. Even if we have poor posture, we're not doing something that's really far off. Usually it's more here, slouch, the hips or the shoulders. So this is how we maintain that, where should my head be? When you're driving and you're turning, it's all how to keep the eyes focused, even though your body might be in motion or not in motion. So the vestibular systems in general, it's your eyes, how well you can focus on a particular object, the inner ear, which is all these components I was just speaking about, and your nervous system, with the brain and the spinal cord, and then down to the receptors and the muscles, muscles in the joints, primarily in your feet and ankles when it comes to stability. So all of those topics I brought up earlier with genetics, pharmaceuticals, diet, injuries, it's all the same stuff here.
It is.
If you have poor eyesight, that will affect your ability to balance. Not just because you can't see and you're going to trip over something, but again, because it connects to your inner ear. If you have, say you're on certain medications that affect your nervous system, that make you either more relaxed or more agitated, that's going to affect the whole system. So all of these things, once again, all connect. Oftentimes, we'll look at our health. Western medicine does it all the time. I injured my foot, let's just fix the foot. I injured my hand, let's just fix the hand. And it's very compartmentalized when maybe there's other things that are affected by it. Again, if you affect your foot or you injure your foot, it's going to affect other parts of your body. And I got a picture of that coming up here too. So let's see if I can still move these back here without this falling over on me here. Okay, we're good. So balance, coming back to what we were talking about earlier a little bit with the fitness part. If you don't have strength in the muscles, it's hard for you to hold your body up. It's hard to recover if you do start to fall because you need that strength to stabilize your body. Flexibility, you gotta be able to move. If you're just like a stiff, 2x4, you trip over something, you're gonna probably fall. Vision, just like we were talking about, posture, how you stand, the amount of blood flow. That goes back to breathing through your nose. The more you breathe through your nose, the better your circulation is. Your ear, in the inner ear, got some of these pictures here if you folks want to grab these on the way out. This is a bit of the inner ear with those semicircular canals and the cochlea and all that. They're all affected by water. You have a certain amount of water in your body. High blood pressure is affected by the amount of water, right? Well, that's affected in the ears, and that's much, much smaller. It's like a little bit of water can have a big effect if you're hydrated or you're not hydrated. So those are the main facets of balance. Might be one or two other ones I missed. So here's our posture.
Thickness of the liquid
Yes, there's more to all this, and someone that's a doctor has that background would know better. But so if you have high blood pressure, which I don't, you take medication that helps you release more fluid. So that means you have less fluid in your body. So that means you'll have less fluid in the ears on that microscopic level. I don't know if it's viscosity, but there's more to that too, but let me get to that. So if you have too much water in your body, that can be the other one here that's Meniere's, where you have too much water, so some of those canals are inflamed or the other components are inflamed. So why does that matter if you have plus or minus water in your ear? Otoconia, is that how you say it? Otoconia is the little crystals that are in your ear. They need to be in there so that they affect the way that the nerves, I guess they kind of bounce around and the nerves are receptive to that, and that again gives you the orientation of if you're straight up or your head's to the side or whatever that may be. So if you have too much water, the otoconia can end up in the wrong spot where they're not touching the nerves anymore. If you don't have enough water in your system, the otoconia might get lodged in some of the areas that are receptors or in other parts of those semicircular tubes.
Do you know, we'll put you in Trendelenburg, put your head down and work on those crystals.
To reset, put the head in different positions and turn.
Put you down with your head down and it'll reset those crystals.
So the crystals hopefully go back to where they're supposed to be. So it's kind of like, I'm sorry?
That's what the Epps maneuver is?
Yes, yes. And there's tons of videos on YouTube if you look that up for vertigo or Meniere's disease or inner ear issues. There's no shortage of people showing you how to do it. So some of you have honey at home, put honey in your tea or whatever. If you have honey that's been in the cabinet for a long time, sometimes it gets a little crusty. So that's like the crystal part, right? That's kind of how I look in my mind. It's like how that looks like. You got honey maybe in the little tubes. They call it endolymph. That's the fluid that's in the ear canals. And then occasionally you got the crusty stuff. And as long as it's in the right spot, if it's on the edge or whatever, that's fine, on the jar. It's not doing any harm. So when it's in the right spot, that's fine. It's when things are not in balance that we have the issue. So. Or if you stand up too quick, right? So these topics that we're discussing, no matter, like what physical exercises we do, I can show you Tai Chi things, I can show you other things, like those exercises are great. But if you have other issues that are affecting your health, those have to be taken into consideration because one's not going to just cancel out the other. If you have ear issues because of your blood pressure, balance exercises are going to help, but they're not going to fix what's going on with your high blood pressure. So here's our posture, and it does affect the nervous system, muscular system, circulatory cell. Everything is affected by our posture. I said that the structure starts in your feet, but all this stuff, if you're standing like this most of the time, or if you're sitting in the car sideways, at home you're sitting sideways, it just starts to affect all the different things. It's not one particular spot that's just going to be that issue. If I'm driving like this all the time with my arm up on the window, sooner or later that's going to cause the shoulders to shift, the spine's going to shift. Okay, well, why is that such an issue? My body feels fine even though I'm walking around like this. All of the nerves that are in your spine affect all the organs. All the branches that go out affect the organs. So if any one of those are a little bit out of alignment or being pinched or impinged, some other part of the body is going to suffer from it. It's kind of like your electrical panel at your house. You got all the circuits. They're all good, they all work, but you got bad wiring in some part of the house. Sooner or later, either that part isn't going to work or you're going to have a short or a fire or something. So it might look good at the electrical box. It might look good at the spine. Down the road, it's probably going to be a problem. So posture, very, very important. Be aware of how you stand, how you walk, how you sit. All right, points of contact. 3 points of contact. There's a picture on one of these flyers on the table here talk about climbing ladders. And you said you don't climb ladders too much, right? It has to do with going up and down stairs though too. You got 2 feet, you know, walking up the stairs, and what's the rail for? You know, you don't want to use it. You're holding something perhaps. It's a good idea, again, to have different options. You know, they got rails in bathrooms and showers and things like that. They give you that extra point of contact. With our feet, how many points of contact do we have with each foot? It's not a riddle, but you know, for the most part, we're walking on one flat surface, but hopefully from the heel to the ball, if we have little flexibility in our ankle and toes, it is probably more like this. And you'll hear some people walk like that where they're slapping because it's just their foot coming down flat. So if you have 1 point of contact, not that much balance. If you have 2 points, 1, 2, that's a little better, right? 3, 4, like animals, they got 4 legs. If you're in the mountains, would you rather be on a donkey or walking yourself and you have poor balance? The donkey's going to give you 4 more points of contact. It's very stable. Just, you know, for conversations purposes, right? So the more points of contact you have, the better. So here's where my golf balls kind of come in. So if you want to do this with me, you can grab a golf ball. If you don't, then I'll just keep these to myself. So if you want one, grab one, pass it on. Yeah, because I got to keep talking. Just pass it on. So that points of contact. I don't think my feet smell, so you're going to be okay, right?
I'll let you know.
Yeah. So these are some things that we can do. I got to get my own golf ball too, though.
Here.
No, I'll just wait till they come back. So if you hold your leg out, you know, you can do ankle exercises. You know, you push and you pull. You can squish your toes. You can spread and open your toes. There's all different things you can do, just, you know, moving your feet around. You got more? So you might want to take your shoe off, 1 or 2 of them.
Who dropped that? Who dropped the golf ball on you?
Did you get one for yourself? So you got to take your shoe off, otherwise it ain't going to help too much. So those are just, you know, basic kind of exercises. I showed Paul this a couple weeks ago too. You know, you can do things with your feet where you kind of turn on the side. Your feet, again, if they don't have flexibility and strength, you only have 1 point of contact. Ball and the heel, that's 2 points of contact. If you have the ball of your foot and your toes, now you got, you know, 5, 6 points of contact. So with this, let's not get the balls all bouncing around the place. You can roll it around. And I think this was at the first discussion we had. One of the gentlemen was sitting over here, said he had neuropathy. And I suggested he get a golf ball and roll it around just like we're doing here. And usually where it feels most uncomfortable is where you probably should do it more.
Yep. That's really true.
To stimulate the nerves on the bottom of your feet.
Big time.
And the more that they get stimulated, there's more blood flow, and then the muscles have to react. And just like your fingers would be doing something like this, that's what you want your toes and your ball of your foot and the arch to be doing. So from a reflexology point of view, you're stimulating all the organs, because all the different organs connect to points on your toes and feet. So now if you get 2, I could do, you know, 1 with each foot. So now it's a little bit of a coordination. I got to keep both of them. Oh, you know, when it pops away, you got to catch it. So you could put 3 or 4 of them on the ground if you wanted to. You use as many as you want. It's not the number, it's what are you doing?
Bring your golf balls to the recliner.
Yeah. Don't do this while you're driving. That's not, no.
No, but bring them
So-
to the recliner.
So you got 1 ball, right? I got 2 of them. So I'm going to try and do 2 with 1 foot. So that makes it even more difficult. My foot just cramped up from doing that. So you can try and do this where, you know, you're playing like a little coordination game. Oh, that one's gone. I think you get the idea. If you do it enough, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And I think I talked about the real foot massages. You know, we go for a foot massage because it feels good. Some other cultures, Chinese culture, they go to a massage because it hurts, and it'll be that intense that it hurts because they know that they're going to feel better afterwards from stimulating all those nerves and the acupressure points. So the next thing you would try is standing. You don't need to if you want to and you feel comfortable doing it. So now you have a tremendous amount more, not that you have more weight, but you have
Hold on to a chair while you
yeah, you can hold on to a chair.
Well, me with a wound in the leg.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Can I sit?
So you can adjust how much weight you're putting on the foot. Whereas when you're sitting, you know, I can just take the weight off it pretty much, right? So that's the next, you know, more advanced level of trying to stand and adjust how much more weight you put on the foot. And then again, you can use more golf balls. I live on the golf course, so, you know, I get a bag of these every couple days, every couple weeks. No, they end up in my backyard or in my pool. They go through the screen. So, as much as you can. Sure, yeah. Any of the exercises, there's further into this, hope we don't run late. A lot of this has to do with doing it. It's not so much, you know, how many times or this way, that way. It's just, you have to do it. So 1 ball, wonderful. 5, just keep rolling them all around and try to catch it. So now it's not just stimulating those points, it's you working on your coordination to be able to keep pulling them in. So there's another thing you can do with that too. Oh, yes. Yeah. So if you want, keep the ball if you're going to use it. If not, on the way out, put it back in the bag, okay? Keep it if you're going to use it. So you can do this thing too. You can try to crinkle up the towel. So if I do it like long ways, then I got more. I can keep trying to do that. Pick up marbles. Yeah. So you get the idea. Any of these things, they're good. They work, but you have to do them. So where are we at right here? Solutions. Thank you so much. Do nothing. Just wait until you fall. You know, that's what a lot of people. Yeah, that's a big number. Next month, I'm going to talk about that more. So doing nothing really isn't a good method. Proactive, that's what we were talking about. Looking at the room, seeing that there's things that are trip hazards. You know, putting soft things on the floor if you need to, like we would with our kids. You know, when they were growing up, we keep soft things around instead of hard objects. There's many different things to be proactive. Exercise is being proactive, learning how to do these things, you know, with the feet and the golf balls and that. Reactive, that's not the best either. That's kind of like after the fact, but it's better than not doing anything. So, you know, I fell, I got to do something now. Proactive is really the best spot. So we have exercises that are static, meaning you're just standing. Dynamic would have maybe a little bit of movement, where you're doing this kind of stuff, where you're shifting your center of gravity. And then locomotion is you're moving your body. Your feet are going from one place to the next. So I use the little points of contact again. This is stable. Dynamic is not as stable because this is moving. Locomotion, you're moving in a direction. So what we'll do pretty much throughout all of my classes, we can call it Tai Chi, we can call it Qigong, it could be called martial arts training, could be yoga. It's all the same type of stuff where you hold your body in a particular position. Just getting there, that's okay, that's great, but really holding it. A horse stance, and you squat a little bit, put tension on your thighs, your knees, your buttocks, hamstrings. Now you're engaging those muscles, so you start to get a little stronger. And then from there you can go into like this one or this one. You know, these are all different stances that we'll practice that give the person stability. So again, that's just static. That's just holding it. How you get there, that's this dynamic part. So if I was going to get into the horse stance, I could do something like this. So I get there instead of just being, you know, place your foot here, place your foot there. If I'm gonna step into this one, I go from my toes to my heel, or I turn toes to heel. So now I'm getting into the next one, the locomotion, where I'm kind of moving. I'm still kind of in the same spot. Toes, that's the cat stance or empty stance. And then you go to your heel. And then you make your legs wide, like with the square on the floor here. I shift back, I shift forward, I step with my heel. So these exercises I'm showing you, you're not gonna gain that much from me just showing them to you, okay? But you can go on YouTube, my sheets, there's a bunch of exercises on there, all different ways to do this. It's not like there's any one that's the magic one. That's the one that's gonna make my balance better. They're a combination of doing all these different things. So say I'm here, and I try to hold just standing here for 30 seconds. And then I can put my foot here, hold it for 30 seconds. And then here. Now I'm up to 1.5 minutes. And then I get to here. Oh, I get a rest. But then I can go back or to here. You know, it's like there's so many combinations of ways to do it. That's not the main point. Like I can show you, I can do this. You know, I can stand here, I can do this. Okay, well, how is that gonna help you? You have to do it. So coming back to this stuff here, you gotta start with ones where you're just standing. And then you can start to shift. And then from there, you can get the leg off the ground. And then from there, you can move with this, where I'm doing stuff like this, or, you know, I'm stepping in a very methodical pattern, where I'm challenging my balance each time in between. But you don't start off with that one if you have a hard time just standing still. So there's this thing, I just found this today. I didn't know this was out there, but the Berg balance test. And I guess this is a big thing with physical therapy and people that have fallen. There's like 10 different steps. This sheet was only page 1. It's got 8 of the steps. And basically there's things like this that determine if you have bad balance. How easily can you stand? Or do you need the rail? How easily can you sit? Do you need to use your hand? And they judge you or grade you from 0 to 4. So that's one of them. Another is, you know, standing, and then how far can you reach before you feel like you're losing your balance? There's standing on one leg, if you can stand on one leg. What it doesn't really do though, they don't show you how to balance or how to sync your center of gravity. So you're kind of set up, you're not gonna do well on some of them. Like if I had to reach, say I gotta reach for this thing right here. If I stand with my feet straight and I'm stiff as a board and I try to reach, yeah, sooner or later I'm gonna have to take a step because I'm gonna lose my balance, right? But if I would have sunk my center of gravity, let my hips bend slightly and my knees bend slightly, I'd be much more stable as I go to reach, even if I go forward a little bit. So if I'm gonna stand on one leg, okay, here's the test. If you can't stand on one leg for 5 seconds, you're not in good shape. You're gonna have a risk of falling. But if you just do this, and you're like kind of fighting standing, because this leg, again, it's locked. If you bend your knee and then try to stand, your stability is like 10 times better. So you need to, I'm suggesting, if you learn how to balance and how to distribute your weight, then your balance can get tremendously better. But you don't just jump, you know, I'm gonna do some kind of spin thing. You know, no, some of you, that you're gonna wipe out. You're gonna be dizzy and the whole thing and your body's not strong. So you gotta know yourself, which comes back to the beginning of knowing, having some self-awareness. So this kind of comes back to the beginning of awareness of yourself, you know, have some kind of meaning and purpose. You know, it has to do with your health, but it has to do with, you know, people around you, what you want to do. It has to do with your beliefs, what you want to get out of life. If any one of those components, whether it was the physical, the mental, the spiritual, is out of whack, they're all out of whack, right? Because we want to have them all. Who's willing to give up their health so that you can be smarter? Who wants to be more aware, but you're stuck in a chair? You want them all. So that's what this is kind of about. There's a term that's a little more in depth of having a calling. That's what I do. I do these classes and instruction and that because I enjoy doing this. I don't really earn a living doing this. I haven't earned a living. I do it because I want to teach people, because the things I've benefited, it's priceless. Bliss is another term for it, bliss, or there's a Japanese term called ikigai. And what that encompasses more is having something you enjoy doing, that you're aware of, that gives you meaning and purpose, and also that you have a connection with people. And if you can earn an income that helps you to continue to do what you need to do, that's like an extra benefit. But once, okay, am I retired? I'm 60 years old, I've been doing this stuff. I'm kind of retired. If I don't have a purpose, well, what am I doing? A lot of times when people retire, they lose the purpose of going to work and having stuff to do and people around them. So this all affects your health. This right here is a way to think about your decisions. You've all heard the terms before, true, right, and correct. And it's a bit of a scale. True is I really don't like standing up here and sweating. I'm sweating a little bit because I'm talking and I'm moving around a little bit, right? But I know it's the right thing to do because I enjoy doing this and I know that people will benefit from learning some of these things. So what's the right thing to do? Well, it's the correct thing is the balance of the two. So if you make a decision like, I know I need to do this stuff to work on my balance because I'm kind of at this point where I do risk falling. Truly, I don't want to exercise. Truly, I don't want to do it. Well, what's the right way? Well, do it. Get out there. Do the work. That's the correct answer. So it's like this balance that you're constantly doing. When we go out in the car and come up to a red light, you don't want to stop. I got to go somewhere. But what's the right thing to do? You better stop or you're going to get T-boned, right? So that's the correct answer, is stop for the red light. If there's a fire engine coming behind you and it's only one lane and you're going to get ran off the road if you don't go through the red light and pull over, now you're going against the rules, right? You blew through the red light. So the correct thing to do is get out of the way of that fire engine. Well, it changes though.
Some things do change. I was going to give you something.
Yeah. Some things will change and other things do need to be consistent. And that's why it's a scale, because it does change. You got a plan. That's a consistent plan. So that's something that, for this conversation, that's consistent. With this concept,
That's variable.
yeah, this does change. It's like, oh, I need to exercise. Well, you're sick this week. You need to recuperate. So what's the right thing to do? You need to recuperate. Maybe exercise isn't every day. So this comes back to what I said about you got to do the work. If you do something 100 times, I can have all of us do this exercise, stand up and lift your leg. Try and do it. Say we do it 100 times. It's going to take us 5 minutes. You will get some benefits from doing that. Your leg will get sore. You'll start to feel a little bit better awareness of where your center of gravity is. In order to get where you don't forget it, you got to do it about 1,000 times. And that's not necessarily in one shot. It might be 1,000 times over a couple days. So like with the ball, you do it one time, yeah, you'll feel, okay, I can feel it. You do it for a week, every day, a couple times a day, you're getting up to 1,000 times of rolling it. Not 1,000 sessions, but maybe 1,000 times you're rolling it. Now you're not going to forget it. A month from now, you can come back to it and you'll remember it. Do something 10,000 times, now you pretty much should understand it and master it. A lot of the exercises I teach in my classes, I've been doing them since I was 16 years old. I don't like to consider myself a master. If I've mastered them or I understand them, that's a little different perspective of it. So for me to do this stuff here, I've done this thousands of times. It doesn't take much, I just do it. But I've probably done it 10,000 times or more over the years. So my suggestion for all of you, don't get caught up on, which exercise should I do? There's a couple on this sheet, a whole bunch of them on this sheet. And they're the static positions that I just went through a little bit. So grab the sheet. Try and do it. Go on YouTube, watch some of the other people doing balance exercises. Pick a couple of them and just do them, and you'll see your balance will get better. It's just like eating healthy food. You know, it's like, I ate a salad last week, but now I do whatever, you know, tiramisu for breakfast. No.
Cold pizza.
You know, if you're gonna eat, you gotta do it consistently. If you're gonna do these exercises for balance, you gotta do it consistently. My best recommendation is come to my classes. If you want, I teach all this stuff. We do it every class. There's stuff with balance and coordination and every class. So, you had a question?
Yeah, from your movement, you know, it looks very fluent, and it sounds like dancing. So, you know, it seems like some of these exercises could be done if you dance.
Yes, yeah.
And so, from what you said, dancing would be a wonderful.
Dancing is very good for balance.
Dancing is fabulous.
You'll see people do all kinds of spins and turns and dips where they're playing with their center of gravity and where the weight's distributed. Yoga, Tai Chi and martial arts, Qigong is kind of in that same family with all the others. Tai Chi, martial arts, yoga, all very much related. Pilates comes from martial arts. Ballet, some legends, stories say that comes from martial arts. All different types of dance from all different regions of the world. You see people, they've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, and it's physical activity. And they're oftentimes healthier than we are sitting on the couch all day. So. We probably should finish up, so it's about 10 after 3. If you have questions, please stay after. Come next month. We got 2 more of these for this year, and then we'll reevaluate going into the new year. We got bone strength and then breathing, different ways to breathe. So thanks for coming. Be well, be safe.
You're